Welcome, I am Becky Tuttle, and it's my privilege and honor to serve as city council member for District 2 for the city of Wichita. And this is the District 2 Advisory Board meeting for Wednesday, November 13th, 2024 at 6 p.m. We're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing that we always do is we have introductions, and so I'll ask everyone who's on the District Advisory Board to introduce themselves, what neighborhood or HOA they represent, and their favorite thing about Wichita. And we're going to start tonight with the folks who are joining us virtually. Thank you for being troopers and spending your evening with us. So Tracy, you want to go first?
Hi, good evening. Tracy Adams from the Harrison Park community. And I guess what I love most about Wichita today is District 2. I love the district that I live in. And my District 2 city council woman.
I love you too. Thank you, made my day. Tyler?
Hey everybody, Tyler York, Sierra Hills, and what I have loved about Wichita lately is all the rain we've gotten finally in the past week and a half, including about 1/4 of an inch at my place overnight.
Awesome. Still in phase 2 of drought. We have a long way to go, but every drop helps. Thank you. Jim?
Hey, Jim Groff here. Is it working?
Yeah, you're perfect.
All of a sudden, I'm a computer whiz. Well, listen, I'm glad to be here. What I think one of my things I like most about Wichita, particularly this week, has been the fantastic cardio doctor hospital relationships that we have with the talent in this town that managed to take my heart out, fix it up, and put it back in now, waiting for me to get all tick-tocking and going. So I'm pretty happy.
We're all thankful for your doctor's Jim. We need your help. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
All right, we're gonna go from this room.
Yes, so my name is Mila. I live in the Brentwood Village neighborhood, and I'd say one of my favorite things about Wichita is the workforce here in the aircraft industry. We have a lot of talent in Wichita, and I love to see it.
My name is Aaron Miller. I represent the Bonnie Brae Neighborhood Association. My favorite thing about Wichita, I was watching the news this week, and they ran a story on all the names that we give our snowplows.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty interesting. So
I was reading posts today, and there are people on Facebook who are saying, we love your community, we want to move to Wichita. Like,
For the snow?
Thank you.
My name is Stephanie McCurdy. I'm representing the Hawthorne subdivision. And I think one of the things I like best about our community is last week I went to 4 different nonprofit charity events, and every single one of them were full. So they're filling their feet in. So I'm glad to see that.
Tim?
Good evening. I am Tim Johnson. I represent the Willowbend neighborhood. And what has me excited about Wichita this week is the great start that our men's basketball team at Wichita State is off to. I was really encouraged. I'm a former member of that basketball band from back in the days. Xavier McDaniel with Livingston and Antoine Carr.
My name is Faith Martin. I represent the East Ridge Neighborhood Association, and Public Works is really gonna like this, but my favorite thing is the roads right now. I took Central the other day and the construction is done and it was beautiful. And then in my neighborhood, I got to take the new 3-lane Lincoln all the way down and it was just wonderful. So big thank you to Public Works for getting the roads all smooth and pretty and nice to drive on right before Christmas or winter.
Yeah, well, she being very good, that's okay, but we've had lots of conversations with the Lincoln Street Road folks, so glad there's some happy folks about that. Just for anybody watching or in the audience, we have 5,100 lane miles, is that correct? Oh?
Yes.
Yep, so Public Works does an excellent job. And last but not least, Ms. Drayton.
Teresa Veazey, your community services representative for District 2. And my favorite thing about Wichita is being able to walk in my neighborhood with the beautiful trees changing colors. It's lovely, lovely to walk.
Teresa's the one who keeps us all going. All right, so we have the agenda in front of us. We do have a quorum this evening. So the first item will be to approve the agenda for November 13th, 2024. I would take an entertaining motion to approve.
Make that motion.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
3 seconds, we'll go with Aaron. All those in favor say aye.
Alright.
Anyone opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have approval of our minutes from October 14th of 2024. Bruce did a fabulous job as always. Hopefully you had a chance to review them. Any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Faye, a second.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. As, keep in mind, if you weren't here, we would ask that you abstain, so all those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed to the minutes from October 14th, 2024? Hearing none, anyone need to abstain because they were absent? Stephanie, for the record.
Abstain.
Please, you also abstain from the minutes. Thank you all. Next, we're gonna go to public agenda. Is there anyone who's here this evening who would like to speak to an item that isn't on the agenda? Thank you. Seeing none, we'll go right into staff reports. Wichita Police Department. We're seeing one this evening. They're doing exactly what they need to be doing. Fire, and let's see the lieutenant chief correction. They're exactly doing what they need to do as well. Park and Rec. John, Paul, you're going to award them tonight, and we'll get these reports, don't worry, and we'll make sure that we get police, especially police and fire with the data and numbers, and then we'll get John and see if we can get a Park and Rec report. John, we're gonna go right to library then.
This microphone for this one. Thank you.
We saved you about 15 minutes, so. And don't forget to tell us your favorite thing about Wichita.
My name is John Clary. I'm the manager at the Rockwell Branch Library. Favorite thing about Wichita right now is the Great Plains Nature Center. It's been a fantastic week to walk out there, seeing the deer and all the other animals and the changing of the trees. It's fantastic. I would recommend it.
Just back to where you're from. The Great Plains Nature Center is one of the few park facilities in the nation that is a local, state, and federal partnership. So it's really unique and supported by 3 different entities, and just, again, it's just something that's a real treasure in our community for people to be right in the center of the city, to be able to have them. So thank you for sharing. What's going on at the libraries?
Okay, so just an update on our renovation and a new addition project. We are progressing, it's continuous on our new addition. We're adding 7,000 square feet to Rockwell Branch Library. They're going to be pouring concrete slab next week. So they've got all the underlying utilities done. They're finishing up the underground sewer work, getting all the prep done, ready to lay the slab. So we're excited about that. We're still looking at probably a February 2025 timeframe when they'll move us out of our current building and spend about 5 or 6 months renovating our current buildings. So that's what is going on with the renovation. A couple of closings to announce for the Wichita Public Library this month. We will be closed for Thanksgiving on November 28th and 29th. So that's Thursday and Friday. We'll be back open on Saturday and Sunday for all your library needs. November is Kansas Reads to Preschoolers Month. This is an annual event that promotes reading to all Kansas children from birth through age 5. And through a statewide program, parents, librarians, and caregivers are encouraged to read chosen title during the month of November. The title this year is How Do You Hug a Porcupine by Lori Isaac. The description of this book is a child figures out the best way to hug a porcupine as he watches his friends hug other animals. And this is going to be featuring How Do You Hug a Porcupine at our 5 story walk locations around town. The nearest one here for District 2 is going to be the Harrison Park, which is over here at Harry and Webb. You can walk around with your little one and do story time with them at the same time. We have libraries that go out there frequently and swap those out, so they really need while you're at home walking that. We are also having a special event, How Do You Hug a Porcupine, with Tanganyika Wildlife Park. So that's going to be Saturday, November 9th from 10:30 to 11:30 at the Advanced Learning Library. November 9th. Oh, that's already been.
Yes. That's what I thought, oh my gosh, it's the next one. So we missed the parking lot.
Tanganyika brought a real live porcupine and other animals out there, and the ambassadors to the library, so.
There was no hugging for us too.
Still coming up for this month is an author event in partnership with Watermark Books. Craig Johnson is the author. And he will be at Saturday, November 23rd, right before Thanksgiving, from 2 to 3 at the Advanced Learning Library. So if you'd like to meet him or get your book signed, Watermark Books and Cafe and Wichita Public Library are bringing the best-selling author Craig Johnson with us to the newest Walt Longmore release. It's called Tooth and Claw. And Craig will be discussing and signing this new novella. Registration is required because it's going to be a popular event, so come early to parking the reading Advanced Learning Library. So we're still doing our story times. We're doing them temporarily over at the rec center. While our meeting room is getting renovated right now, so we're still doing that. We have other youth programs. Just check our Wichita Public Library website for all of those events and times. And let's see, about all I have for you this evening. Can I take any questions?
Are you attending the literacy summit tomorrow?
Tomorrow, no, I've got too many meetings. I've got a meeting, supervisor meetings, so I'm not gonna go.
Yeah, USC Environmental Literacy Summit, I'm a huge advocate for literacy and childcare early learning, so I'm gonna be there for the right.
Thank you for.
Absolutely, I'm gonna support it. Any other questions for John? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thanks for all you do. Good luck with the construction.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have City Engineer Paul Gutzman, who will give us our public works and activities report. And favorite thing about Wichita.
You know, my favorite thing about Wichita is it's 2 hours from my mom's, 2 hours from my in-laws, and 2 hours from my daughters. And 2 hours from Manhattan County, so it's all good.
It's like the center of your world.
Yeah, it is, you know, you can make it there and back and not feel exhausted in the day, and then they can't just drop in.
Yeah.
That's-
Good on you.
Yes, all right, the update tonight, I have a few projects, the 2024 pavement preservation program. As was locked out, as you mentioned, we are wrapping that program up. And then I believe we will be presenting the 2025 program to the city council on December 3rd. So then we'll have the list updated for the 2025 program at the next meeting, so. We are making progress on the red bed path that is from Woodlawn to K96. Design is well underway. We do have an artist selection made that will be making some artistic elements at the rock road. We are planning a pedestrian bridge over Rock Road at that location. So, and then we have funding for that project to 2025. So we're getting started on the project. The 143rd Street project from Harry to Kellogg, again, design is still underway on that project. We are coordinating closely with KDOT because that is part of our next improvements to East Kellogg and how we handle traffic there at the Kellogg and 143rd Street. I think at this time, we will probably be able to move forward with our project moving forward with the East Kellogg project, so we'll still coordinate the traffic control on the 143rd Street. I've added a new project to this list from last time, and that is Harry Street from 127th Street to 143rd Street. JEO Consulting was selected for that project. We will evaluate the road section, whether a 3 or 5 lane roadway or 3 lane roadway with right from December lanes to some of the street connections. Of course, look at pedestrian and bicycle facilities. So once we get a concept put together on that, we'll present that to the district advisory board. This project is really just filling in between both intersections. Harry and 127th Street has been improved, the intersection has, and we will improve the Harry and 143rd intersection with the previous project and this section. And then the K96 project, we've been talking about that for a while. There has been a couple public open house meetings on that project. As part of the ICE program with KDOT right now, they have out of the almost $9 billion program, they had set aside $2.3 billion for enhancements to existing roadways. That's not the word I was looking for, but modernization and expansion of existing highways. That program, we had found out here recently that $2.1 billion of that program has been identified for construction. It did include East Kellogg. However, at this time, there is not construction funding for K-96. So we're kind of putting that on pause. I think KDOT is supposed to be in town mid-December to talk about next steps for that.
So we're salty.
Yes.
We've done a lot. For
Yes,
this project.
Pleasure.
Just a side note, I'm the chair for the Shire Metropolitan Planning Organization, and I also serve as the city representative and South Central Kansas Transportation Coalition. And the coalition that last week, Paul and I were both there. I'm representing the council, representing the city staff, and we have identified K-96 expansion and East Kellogg expansion as the two highest priorities for that coalition. So when local council come up with the Kansas Department of Transportation, that coalition as a body will be advocating for these two projects and then others. So these are our top priorities. The strategy was successful, and that's how we got the funding for the majority. So having a unified voice from South Central Kansas is really important. And we're working out and with KDOT, but then also with Federal Highway Administration. So, and Paul's doing a fantastic job of leading that initiative and keeping all of our partners engaged and informed, explaining what to do.
I got two other projects. I want to talk about the North Junction. You might have heard on the news, the westbound Q96 to I-135 traffic, they have that closed during the nights, probably through the month of November. Through November. They're closing at nightly from 9 p.m. to, it says 9 a.m., but I think they're trying everything possible to get that opened up by 7 a.m. in the morning to allow rush hour traffic. They're doing that to remove some of the existing structures at that location. And then the last project that we had was the new multimodal facility, or the hub, which is the new transit facility that will be constructed just west of Riverfront Stadium. We had a groundbreaking on that project October 11th. Gave notice to proceed to Doppelganger construction on October 14th. And they had started site grading and process before it rained, so it's slowing down a little bit, but we really needed to rain. So that is what I have for you.
Any questions? Thank you for being with us evening. Thanks for all you do, Paul.
And the other good thing is this location is 4 miles from the house, so I'm close. Thank you.
You really are a numbers guy, Paul, like
Exactly.
engineers.
Yeah.
I always say I'm not an engineer and I'm not very smart, but I hate for engineers and smart people. All right, next on the agenda, we're gonna go right into new business. The first item is CDP 2024-0033. We have Christina with us from the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. Before we begin both of these items, I would just remind my district advisory board members and the community, I have had no ex parte communications with the applicant or any community regarding AKA no one's reached out to me about this. So. Let's go.
Thank you, council member. I'm Christina Reed. I am the planner with planning staff. Can I share my favorite thing about Wichita?
Yes, please.
All right, so I'm really excited about this. 2 weeks ago, I actually bought my first house here. Oh, I am in District 1. But I'm sorry. Appreciate how I just really appreciate how welcoming everyone has been since I moved here 2.5 years ago, not knowing a soul. So I'm excited to be here.
And Christina has a great story. She was stopped here overnight on the way to a wedding.
My nephew being born, actually, yes.
Being born, and your overnight visit enchanted you so much with Wichita that you moved here.
Yeah, I moved here like 2 months afterwards.
Okay, I think that's the most fun story. Yeah, we just need to go to every hotel and knock on the door and say, please. All right, Christina, let's hear it.
All right, so the applicant, so this is a CUP amendment. So this entire, or this parcel that you see outlined in black is part of a greater CUP or community unit plan. And the CUP has restrictions, it may have architectural controls. Sorry, I got a little distracted. So if they want to modify any of the permitted uses or the architectural controls, within the community unit plan, that requires an amendment of the CUP. So they have several requests. The first one is warehouse self-storage, self-service storage is currently not a permitted use, within this parcel of the CUP, so they are requesting an amendment to allow it. They also are requesting to exempt parcel 2 from the architectural controls that are associated within the general provisions of the community unit plan. They're also looking to alter the development standards for building height, floor area, and building coverage on parcel 2 that you see there. And a waiver of the supplementary use regulation within warehouse self-service storage, which requires a resident manager on site for warehouse self-storage use. So the subject site is a little bit over 2.5 acres in size. It's zoned limited commercial district in the community unit plan, and it's located on the west side, north 127, just south of East 21st Street North. The subject site is currently undeveloped, and they are requesting all of these amendments in order to allow a self-service storage facility on site. So if it was not located within the community unit plan, if it was standing by itself, it would normally require something called a conditional use application, which is a different type of application for a permit. And it would still be subject to supplementary use regulations for warehouse and self-service storage. But this CUP amendment, it's pretty much the same as a conditional use because we still notify everyone within a certain radius. There's still public hearing processes, so on and so forth. So the supplementary use regulations for warehouse self-service storage, they are located, let's see, I think I provided them in the packet. Yep, they start on page, at the bottom of page 5. So you look at number 17, that normally requires a resident manager on site, responsible for maintaining the operation of the facility. So they are requesting to waive that. So they did provide a site plan for us for the CUP amendment. And they're proposing a 3-story, 112,000 square foot building with a 1,000 square foot office. It'll be about 22 feet from the north property line. It'll be accessed from Shady Brook Street. So if you're going, as you can see in the site plan there, it's that curved street, that collector street that collects into 127th Street. We do have parking requirements under the Unified Zoning Code. They are more than fulfilling that parking requirement. They do have trash enclosures, those are going to be on the west side of the property, so they're not going to be visible from 127. As I mentioned earlier, they're looking to increase the maximum building coverage as well as a gross floor area and floor area ratio to accommodate the proposed facility. And then the modifications that they're looking to do, so from 35% to 45%, et cetera, those are listed in further detail at the end of this report. They also request an exemption for the architectural controls that are outlined in general provision number 8 of the community unit plan. Basically it talks about these architectural controls. They require colors, limited use of vivid colors, and do not allow for metal to be the predominant material. A little bit of piece history on this property. The community unit plan was created in 2008. This Wichita City Council, they approved a zone change request from single family to limited commercial. And because the entire portion of it being rezoned is greater than 6 acres, that is why they are required to do a community unit plan. And then there's been some adjustments that have been administrative, and there's been 4 of those since 2017. So the requested amendments, they are in conformance with the community investments plan. If we look at the future growth concept map, which is located on page 13 of the staff report, this next page. Yep, there we go. It identified the area to be appropriate for residential and planned mix. And so due to the proximity of residential uses, employment uses will likely have negative impacts associated with noise, hazardous emissions, visual light, odor, et cetera, et cetera. So they are still required to screen and they are still required to implement landscaping, per the CUP, which, they default to as well. And that will remain in effect, if this CUP amendment. So staff is recommending approval, of the application, subject to the conditions that are listed in your staff report. So they shall remain subject to the supplementary use regulations, for warehouse self-service storage, with the exception of the one they're, requesting to be exempted from. And, if they are found in violation of any of these, requirements here, they do risk, having their CUP amendment, null and void. So this recommendation is based on the golden rules. I'm not gonna go through all of them. Since this report was written and since it went to MAPC, I did receive several more comments that are not listed in the staff report. And some of the folks who did reach out to me in writing, I believe some of them are here today, will be able to speak about their comments more in depth. But they are mostly in opposition to the CUP amendment request.
And what was the vote from the metropolitan area commission?
So, it went to the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission on October 24th. And it was approved, I don't remember the exact number, but they did, 92, thank you. But they did, they did vote to, keep the architectural controls.
Okay. So.
It was approved 9-2 with the architectural controls. Yes, and all the other conditions, that staff, the applicant, that the applicant is requesting, that staff is in agreement with, those, were part of the motion to approve, yes. And CUPs are a little bit different than, say, zone changes, or PUD applications, because, there's a 2-week protest period. At the end of that 2-week protest period, if no one has protested, the decision of the MAPC is final. It has been protested, so this will go to city council.
What is the percentage of protests?
55.26.
Okay.
So just to let everyone know, since we have visitors here today, what we'll do is we'll have questions for Christine from the district advisory board. And then we'll have an opportunity for the applicant to make comments. They're very interested. And then we'll have questions from community members for Christina or the applicant. And then we'll bring it back to Christina. And then it'll come to that for just final conversation. So district advisory board and Tracy and Jim, that will be, watching for you to see if you have any questions during this remotely as well. But does anyone have questions for Christina, Tim?
Sorry, did we actually just go to the last page, so the folks know where the site is located, and then
Yes,
I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't.
What?
I don't, and that's because of the MAPC vote.
Okay.
That was my question.
Excellent.
Tracy has no questions.
Okay, Tracy, we'd love to hear.
No, she says she doesn't have.
Okay, no question from Tracy?
I don't have any questions now. I think I'd like to hear
No
from,
question.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
our
No
guest.
question.
Thank you.
I have a question. Did you say that their proposed amendment was to not have a residential manager on site?
Yes, so there is a requirement to have a residential manager on site at all times. That is part of the supplementary use regulations, and because they're requesting to waive that, and that was approved by MPC, that will also go towards city council for a final vote.
Okay, now. I'm conjuring a mental picture of a storage facility at the northeast corner, 21st and Webb, behind what used to be Grad City Brewery. Is this a similar type of project?
I can't speak to that, but I will defer to the applicant for their actions on that.
And have you seen any elevations? They have.
Elevations that they can pass out to you, right? Or you have your favorite copies, okay.
Any other questions for Christina? If not, it sounds like we need to go there.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Christina, stay close by, right? And if you would just state your name and your address for the record.
Okay, let me grab his answer real quick.
Okay. And I'll also point out to the community members who are here, according to state statute, I can't weigh in. I can't make comments or, you know, this is what I think I'm gonna do until we actually come to city council. So, yeah, if you hear me say neutral, it's not that I'm not interested, it's not that I'm not incredibly caring, it's just state statute, and I'm trying to stay out of the page today.
Okay, my name is Jay Cook. I work for Baughman Company, 315 South Ellis, and I am agent on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is here, Mr. Eric Wallace. If there are some specific questions that I don't have the answers to, I'll defer to him. One thing I want to make a note of, we are asking for a waiver of regulation number 17, resident manager, but only because it's all the time. There will be an employee on site, usually from 9 to 9, as the facility's open. As you can see, when you imagine a storage unit, I know a lot of times we think it's either on the side of the road, they're just big white metal buildings with orange doors, there's some just right this way or that way, I can't remember on Greenwich here, but anyways, what we're wanting to do is provide a little more of an upscale unit, similar to what is at the northeast corner of Webb and 21st, also with Mays and 13th, I believe, is another one just like that. This is based off market research, things like that. This is a prime location for this specific use. We listened to some concerns and understand the nature of those, and are in agreement with the planning commission that we can go ahead and keep architectural controls if that's something. This rendering right here matches what the architectural controls are as far as building material as well as earth tone, things like that. So we're totally fine with the planning commission deciding that architectural controls need to stay in place to match the community around it. I don't have a lot more. Christina does a fantastic job at all these of going through the staff report done on the planning department, puts a lot of effort into making. I will state that while there may be a lot of other land options for something like this, we found that this is going to be a very good location based off of the residential around it and the use and the needs for a storage facility like the one we have. I'll take some questions if you have them, or just talk more if you want me to. And my favorite thing about Wichita is it's fantastic council, city council's wonderful, their dabs are awesome, I love being here.
They're just favorite, right?
Just a little bit, I did want to actually, unlike Paul, I'm 1,000 miles from my in-laws, so that's another reason. I'm kidding, totally kidding, I'm my wife.
This is really good.
Would you like that reflected in the minutes?
To answer your, or not really answer your question, but when you do a protest petition, 55% sounds like a lot. It's based off on land square footage. So if you scroll up 3 pages, I believe, there's 2 lots there to the west that kind of take up a lot of square footage that we're in. So 55% sounds like half people don't want it, but in reality, it's more than 2, but those are pretty big.
We've seen that before. I think it was because of and if this is a representation of what that will look like, I don't know if this meets one of the, I mean, because it's in the minutes. I think the owner of the car wash, I think it's representing I understand you're asking for a waiver of that, but it looks like they want it to just match the
Yeah,
buildings.
and like I said, we there's always some confusion with architectural control, as far as this CUP does a pretty good job of spelling out exactly what that is. We were gonna be earth tone anyway, and when I sent in the request, I didn't realize that we were going to use type of building material we're using. It's just nice to have the flexibility, but figuring out that we are gonna be using a very similar type as to all the other structures around, it's perfectly fine if we don't wanna approve that waiver.
And I'm just asking a clarifying question, so I'm not stating my position at all, but I think the concern from some, or from what I understand from MAPC was that this was going to be just a big metal.
Right, right,
That
yeah,
correct?
yeah, that was the initial concern, but it's. What you see there is gonna be really, really close to what, and Crown Storage is another good example of what it's gonna be.
Right.
We go for it to be a little nicer, but
The parcel, I can't. The resolution on my copy of the CDP as such, I can't read it. Except the file, but there's a little bit of ground to the south of the. Parts, you're looking, on your bill on or hook bill on, says, I believe, Reserve B, is that a drainage reserve?
it is.
It is.
There's gonna be
Detention pond there?
drainage retention pond, but and we own that as well, that's part of the purchase contract, so. We feel like, at least to the south, we have a significant amount of not only landscaping, but a good buffer of space. And a pond between parcel 2 and then the southern parcels 5 and. The reserve there as well.
And that's all commercial as well.
Yeah.
On the south side.
Yeah.
Side.
And just. maybe to answer a question that has been popping in your head, as Christina stated, there is landscaping, we will have landscaping along. 127th there on the east side, there will be trees, conifers, shade trees, things like that, to kind of add some character to. So you're not just looking at a large building, you're getting to see some nice trees, and I think it's. Kind of, it's depicted pretty well on that rendering, maybe a few more trees than that, but.
What's the height of your trees compared to the building? You're looking at 45.
So,
What's your tree?
Typically, your basic shade tree has the potential to grow 35, 40 feet, is that, would you?
Yeah, I mean, we would install what the city requires and then they would.
Standard maple tree would probably get to 35 to 40 feet. And so I think it would be.
What's the time horizon on that?
So if, hold just one second.
Yeah, no problem,
To make
sorry.
sure, no, if you'll see this, because if you're over there, then the folks, and there's also people that were Facebook Live and, you know, all the things. And so what we'll do is, as soon as, are you done with your?
Yeah, I'd be happy to
Okay,
sit
so
down.
what we'll do then, we'll open it up to discussion from our community members, and let's do the general question.
I'm just wondering if the developer wishes to say anything at this point.
Is there anything you want to add? That I missed or?
No,
Okay.
we are also maintaining.
Oh.
You want me to?
Yes, please.
And you can state your name and your
Sure.
address for the record.
Sure, my name
And
is-
then when you're done, we're gonna go to the community member question, and the questions that you have can either be for Christina or for the applicant owner. But we'll just ask you all to come to the podium and state your name and address and speak in so you're here to join us.
Sure, my name is Eric Wallish, ERIC, last name is Wallish, WALESH. I'm a land consultant for O'Reilly Development out of Springfield, Missouri. However, I live in Overland Park, 9100 West 158th Street in Overland Park. As you mentioned, it's a 3-acre site. It's pretty much a textbook self-storage site for us. Because, you know, you have the car wash in the front, you're going to have an oil change facility, I believe, behind that. And then we would be behind that. The earth tones are absolutely not a problem. It's a very low traffic generator. Once the project is fully leased, you get about 6 car trips a day. So certainly your car wash probably has that in 5 minutes, and the Quick Trip has that. I don't know if they'll change business, but it's a very, very low traffic generator. So, yeah, any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you.
All right, Is there a community, are there community members if you'd like to make any comments, or if you want to ask any questions? You can come to the podium, you just have to state your name, your address if you're comfortable, or, you know, that you live in District 2. And you can make comments, or you can also, just ask questions, and the applicant and owner and the staff will be available. We do ask that you keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. But we're usually pretty flexible, so anyone who has questions, comments, I think the nice thing about it is you folks over here, so this is your opportunity.
Hi, my name is Tyler Bradley. I live at 2076 North 127th Court East. Where I live is featured in one of the photos in this planning document. I've voiced my concerns at this prior meeting. I think my greatest concern with the plan is that you have educational facilities, local businesses, schools, elderly homes, daycares. It's a great setup, not to mention all the residential area you obviously see. It's a great setup, it's a great area. It's relatively uniform with what's present there. I don't think a 3-story building fits the mold there. I understand there's a 20-person web comparison with Pine Storage. That's located in a commercial development area that has a 2 or 3-story gym in it, a number of other retail locations around it. This is quite different than a comparison to 21st Web. If you look at the 2 areas and visit those 2 areas, I guess one question for Christina, and there was some conversation, maybe some assumptions made about the percentage of land and that it was maybe 2 people. In fact, I just want to clarify, I've seen the map. I think there's a number of petitions that have been filed within the 200-foot radius there, as well as expanding outside of that. I think those are labeled different colors. Is that map available, Christina? And are we able to show that to the group here?
I don't have the map on me, unfortunately.
Okay.
But if you don't mind, I'll go up to the podium just to clarify a little bit more. So, we do have, within our protest map, just to give you an idea, we have a 200-foot radius that is mandated by state law. And then we provided an additional ring of 500 feet because that was a notification area. So everyone, so yes, the percentage in red is 55.26%. There were additional petitions that were received outside of that 200 feet. And they are marked in blue or in yellow. They were considered incomplete or invalid protest petition for whatever reason. And we did map all of them that were received.
That was the extent of my question, comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else from here this evening that wants to make comments, questions? Yes, ma'am. If you could just state your name and your address if you're comfortable, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, this is Tisha Detweiler, representing Detweiler, and we actually own the all the duplexes that are east of this, where they wanted to put this. One, I guess like the biggest concern for me is like they're taking a small lot and trying to expand it to the biggest that they can and the tallest that they can in a very small community area. All 1-story buildings around it. And all just very neighborhood businesses, like Tyler said, there's a school. The right to the south of that is all elderly communities. There's local owned doctors, local owned bank. There's a local owned dentist, a local ortho, and then Trinity Academy, which is the school which takes up majority of the land to the west of that. And then also on the petition of like only the 55% in the 200 feet area, it's only 55% because the land to the north and the land to the south is land. I mean, it's all vacant land, so you can't. I mean, so everyone basically around that is petitioning against it, because it's all like vacant land. So it's kind of reading for 55%, because the other 55% can't vote basically.
Yeah, I think obviously we respect real estate owners. I think we're more concerned about the location of it and the reason why we have structural controls in the first place is to keep uniform. So I think our concern is the location and it making sense. It seems like there's a lot of other places around that would make sense even to be close. But I think that's our concern with where we are as owners.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Question or comments? Yes, please.
Bradley again, I guess for the developers, the question on location, I brought this up previously. You mentioned at the last meeting, 2 miles from the next storage unit is kind of the ideal distance. I think this is, a little over 1.5 miles from prime storage, which I assume would be a competitor. When you look at the market landscape and available land in and around this area, I guess, have you done so? And what makes this more attractive than, I don't know the exact zoning, but I see multiple open lots to the northeast of 21st and 127. There's a lot of land in Wichita still and a lot of development to be had. So help me digest or understand why this unit that requires a bunch of manipulation and changes is for this location, I should say, is better than alternatives that you assess. I'm gonna ask you to name all the alternatives, but have you considered others and might there be a better fit than this?
Sure. Mr. Rec, and you certainly can answer it. I just want to kind of clarify, that we want to always bring it back to the foundation for new work, for new district advisory board members, and just as a nice reminder, our job as a district advisory board member is to decide, is this the appropriate use for the land? Not, should it go somewhere else? Will the business be viable? Our only decision is the request that's being made for this use of the land the appropriate use of the land? Does that make sense to everyone? So if you want to address it, I sure can, but I just want to make sure we don't get beyond our mission scope of what we're supposed to be focusing on. Is this the appropriate use for this project on this land?
Yeah.
So if you'd like to address.
And thanks for that. My question again just is a bit more rooted in, the golden rules of not trying to harm commercial liability, right? And so in respect to them, that was where my question.
No, I completely agree. And they could be under.
Some of the uses that you brought, Derek Wallace, and some of the uses that you brought up are exactly what we chase. So rental housing, senior housing, those are demand drivers. It's a 3-mile business. It's a 3-mile radius business. So yes, so this site fits perfectly. We just opened Rushwood Senior Living about 1.5 miles. We turned around east of here, which was a $40 million independent living, assisted living in Carroll City about a year ago, 1.5 years. I think we bought that land from Occidental. That is another reason, because average age of the residents are 80. So those are the demand drivers. So the rental housing, the senior living here, the senior living that we developed down the street, and by a school, this is actually a very safe use because again, the traffic generation on these things are incredibly low. You're probably, a traffic engineer will say 6 to 10 trips a day once it's full. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from? Right, anything else from the communities? Okay, we're gonna bring it back to the district advisory board then, and again, Tyler, Jim, and Tracy, we're watching for you, if you have questions or comments, but I would welcome any questions or comments, discussion that you have.
How long has the property been vacant?
It is my understanding it's never been developed.
Okay, yeah, okay,
That was not your state.
Sorry?
That was not.
I'm sitting here thinking, what is the highest and best use of this property? With who knows, how many tens of thousands. Vehicle movements through that intersection every day, but you know, tens of thousands. And commercial property is developed based on the ability to generate revenue for the owners. And it dawns on me that this ain't gonna generate trips, not for an intersection like that. You're right, very, very few trips, which is a nice thing in terms of the transportation infrastructure. It does feed a demand within, you say, your 3 mile radius. The more rentals and retirement homes, the more stuff that needs to be stored. My single family house, 3,600 square foot house, I don't need a storage facility. So I understand what you're saying about demand. I do like that it wouldn't generate as many trips as your typical commercial professional, even professional office development would on that land, and it's zoned for those kinds of uses. I'm guessing the CUP allows those kinds of uses. So while I and for that, I'm guessing it's a pretty expensive piece, given the traffic counts there in future estimated counts. This may be perhaps the highest and best use of that part. And my original issue, if I had one, was the architectural requirements. And I did want to bring that out and discuss and hearing that MAPC has recommended approval contingent upon other things that the current architectural requirements remain. That puts my head in a good place to support this.
I agree. I think that was my only concern based on at least the ones that I read. There may be more that are outside the protest area that could say the same thing, but if it's gonna look like that and maintain kind of the flavor of the neighborhood as far as like, it looks like a warehouse, or I mean, it looks like an office building and not like a warehouse. I mean, I would agree with the planning, with the planning committee, and I would move that we approve it with an amendment to leave that out.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Tim will second. Is there any further discussion?
All right, could you clarify your motion, please?
Yes, so if I remember correctly from what you said, planning commission approved staff's recommendation except for general provision 8, where they said it should, okay, then I agree with planning commission's recommendation.
Okay.
And
Thank
would
you.
move that we approve and accept staff's recommendation and except for agree with, I don't know how to word that.
Is there a good motion?
Okay, so I would accept planning or accept staff's recommendation, except for provision 8, which is an agreement with planning commission. Does that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So basically you want planning commission.
Correct.
Okay.
And you still.
And I agree.
Okay.
That's okay, so any other question from, we have a motion and a second, I'm gonna call a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Christina, do you know what is the good attendance plan?
Vaguely, I remember December 3rd, but I could be mistaken. I could definitely reach out to them.
Will it be on consent then or not?
It's not consent, it's protest.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
So just to the community members know, on December 3rd, the council meeting when it comes, you can come to the meeting if you like. It's at 9 o'clock at City Hall downtown at 455 North Main, but you are not allowed to speak at that meeting because right now, according to our city ordinance, you have the opportunity to speak at the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and you have the opportunity to speak here. So you don't have the opportunity to speak at the city meeting. So if you want to come just to observe, you sure can, but just want to make sure that you're aware of that. And if you have any questions about that or need more information, please reach out.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, in my communication with some folks who did submit protest petitions, this does exceed the 20% threshold. So it requires 6 and 7 council members to approve in order for it to pass.
That's what it's.
Yep.
Is the vote at city council exactly as it's been approved twice now, or can they manipulate it from there, or was it just simply yes or no based off the two approvals?
City council can make whatever motion they.
Okay.
Yes,
City council can accept the recommendation. They can reject it and send it back to the MAPC for reconsideration, which almost never happens. Or they can modify it and approve it by a supermajority. Now, in this case, even if they approve it as recommended, it will have to be approved by a supermajority because of the protest petitions.
And do they look at it as a blank slate, or do they use the prior rulings as judgment and guidance going forward?
So when we get our agenda packet, it'll have something very similar to this, usually probably almost this. And then we will also have all of the information that the district advisory board and metropolitan area planning commissioners. And then we will also have the meeting minutes from this meeting on this item and from the metropolitan area planning commission.
Will it include the, sorry for the one more question.
No, it's great.
Will it include the petition map?
Yes, absolutely.
But I don't think 55% is very common.
Can we get that petition map included in our packets moving forward?
Sure. I mean, I think the reason why it wasn't included in this particular pack is because it was sent out before the protest map was finalized, because the protest period ended 2 weeks after October 24th, so that was November 7th. So I would have had to send it, yeah, and then I usually send it out to the CSRs a week before, which is November 6th.
Right.
So, yeah.
I was like, because we've gotten them before, that's why I just.
Was it not? I would hope it's like, so that's something.
Yeah.
That was our actual site, yeah.
So it's just the dates overlapping.
Mr. Walsh, Eric Walsh, I live in that area and I've seen another site that is currently being developed, they had some issues with whatever they're doing over there, I don't know. I would recommend if you say you're going to do something, make sure you follow their uses. It has not been a pleasant experience with another developer in that area, and it has been very trying, and council has heard it to the nth degree, so I wish you guys luck with that. Make sure you follow what you say you're going to do.
I would just comment, he literally just opened Russia with about a year ago.
Yes.
And that's. I can't remember, I think it was a $40 million project, so we have invested in this community, and I think that it shows. If you want to get a tour, we'll take you for.
I love this one.
Okay.
I can just ask a question. I just want to know, like, have you guys considered like only doing 2 stories instead of 3 stories, so it's not a 3 stories living in the middle of 1 story area?
The wrong operation would work. You know, I think.
Yeah, and at this point, unfortunately, the conversation has to end, and Chris is giving me the, oh gosh,
Yeah.
talk about the city council, we've done our vote. I would say that if you all want to be in communication outside of.
No, that's fine. That was the basis of my city council question. So can they look at it objectively?
Great question, and reach out to me if you have any questions, I can give you my cell phone, email, anything to me.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. All right, so we are gonna go on to our next agenda item, E 2024-002. Again, Christina, thank you for approving it. And I just want to emphasize before we begin, I have no other communication with applicants, the owner, or any community member regarding comment. Take it away. You can tell us who your favorite property again.
Well, Wichita is the fact that both of my sump pumps work, thanks to all the rain. So, yeah, how gorgeous, yeah.
All right.
So the applicant is requesting an amendment to a planned unit development called by Street Estates. And just for background, planned unit development is a custom zone development. It's first they had a zone change into the planned unit development, and then the planned unit development has its own list of provisions for permitted uses. They could have architectural controls, they could have setbacks, height restrictions. It's very custom, but once it's written in the document, that's how it's supposed to pan out, unless they want to modify it in any way, then it has to be an amendment. So the applicant is requesting an amendment to permit the use of a manufactured home on parcel 3 of this planned unit development. The subject site is 25 acres in size, And it's located on the southeast corner of South 187 and East Heron. So address for this is 1818 South 127th Street East. So if you want to turn your attention to the next paragraphs of the staff report, we have the general conditions and the parcel descriptions. And you're welcome to compare that to page 6 of your staff report with the staff recommendations highlighted in red. So basically, for the parcel descriptions for number 3, they are proposed uses, those described in the general conditions, which is 1 paragraph above. And then they want to add 1 manufactured home, and those uses related to trading, boarding, showing, competition, riding, feeding, and general care of horses. There's a paragraph in the staff report that talks about what a residential design manufacturing entails. Because this one is going to be on stilts with metal skirting, it would actually not be considered a residential design manufactured home. And it also is not considered a single family dwelling unit. My understanding is that they are requesting to have a manufactured home on site as a bunkhouse for the employees associated with the equestrian facilities. The subject site is not platted, and because it is over 20 acres in size, it does not require, there's no requirement for it to be platted. This PUD was created in 2000. And when we look at the conformance to plans and policies, the requested PUD amendment is in partial conformance with the community investments plan. The 2035 future growth concept map, which is on the next page, so this is the aerial map here, and then, oh wait, one more. There we go, that is the future growth concept map. It recommends the site to be appropriate for new employment uses. So these are areas that will be developed or redeveloped by 2035 with uses that constitute centers or concentrations of employment, primarily manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, business services, corporate offices. So in other portions of the property where the manufactured home is not proposed to be placed, they are identified as appropriate for new residential or agricultural and vacant uses. And so this is a mostly residential development. And so therefore it is appropriate based on our future growth concept map. Now, while the community investments plans doesn't talk about an individual home, they do touch upon manufactured home parks. And says manufactured home parks should be located on large tracts and buffered from lower density residential areas by physical barriers. So this is on a large lot, as you can see in parcel 3, and then you want to compare that to the entire PUD, which I believe it's in our staff report somewhere. I'll have to look. I apologize. Maybe it's not. I'm sorry. So it's a very large parcel within this entire PUD. And it's located mostly in the center of that parcel. And they are still required to do landscaping as part of this manufactured home. So staff is recommending approval of the PUD amendment, subject to following conditions. Manufactured home shall conform to the design standards set forth in the PUD language for parcel 3. It shall not house more than 5 people not related by blood or marriage. It shall be installed and tied down in accordance with all state regulations. And then we just need 4 copies of the PUD if it is approved by City Council. So we need 4 copies of that within 60 days. This recommendation is based on the golden rules, which we apply to every zoning case. At the time the report was prepared, we did receive one phone call in opposition to the request. We have since received additional requests, and those are provided in your staff report. They are mostly in opposition to the PUD amendment request. And then if we just want to go down to page 16 for some of the 16 and 17 for some of the site photos of where this is located. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
What was the NAPC?
Yes, it went to NAPC and it was approved subject to staff comments unanimously.
Same with you, questions from the advisory board, and Tyler, Tracy, and Jim were watching for you.
No question.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, no questions, okay, thank you, so sorry, Tim?
That's okay.
Jim Groff, would it be my time for a quick comment?
Go ahead.
My comment is that I'm very familiar with it since we live right out there at Equestrian Estates and so forth. And it is, with this being the factor of the for the use that it is needed for, the horse ranch land bunkhouse. I know I had half a dozen people in our equestrian community approached me about it, saying, well, here we go, it's going to be a land that's going to be filled up with construction type house. And after meeting with chatting with the folks there at that horse ranch, that's not the case at all. It is really a neat looking little bunkhouse arrangement that they need to kind of will continue to help them with their business as it's growing and things of that nature. And it's definitely a appropriate use of the land, I feel. And I think I'm definitely comfortable with that now.
Will this bunkhouse use existing address? Is that what's implied in the staff report?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not nitpicking, but how is it in partial conformance?
That is a great question. I did not write this report. I will have to give me about 5 seconds just to skim and. I suppose it's because they're talking about
See what I
new,
mean?
yeah, I understand. So I guess what's missing in the analysis here is to incorporate for new employment uses. Maybe their argument or staff's argument is that manufacturing hub in and of itself is not a major employment center. This is just one building for 5 people. No.
It's one building.
Yes, it's one building.
There's a building on site. Is that building to be used? Is that the building to be used for bunkhouse?
Yeah, I can answer any questions that you have with you.
Let me keep going.
Okay.
You nodded yes, that's.
It's not a lot of.
I've been on site, I'm looking at it like that, it looks like it's in a different location now than it is in the area. I have no, anyhow. I thought it might be, do you door horses in transit, overnighters?
No, we did, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it might be a bunkhouse for me if I'm bringing my horses.
Okay.
But now, I'm on my own, I gotta go find a hotel. All right. Well, and that was a little bit of a concern with me. Are these existing employees, are we expanding our staffing?
Yeah, no, it's. Do you want me to?
I guess.
Go ahead.
If you'd like to have the microphone so that we make sure everyone can hear, and if you can state your name and your address.
Okay, yeah, my name is Kimberly Miller, it's 13020 East Stampede Street, Wichita, so, so there used to be an existing mobile home there. To my understanding up until about 2012, my husband and I purchased the property in 2016. We had talked over the years about just a facility that big with that many horses really needs 24/7 coverage. We have the city of Wichita Mountain unit there, we have a lot of different horses there, and so we have talked about putting back some housing there for on-site, so if we want to go on vacation or whatnot. My husband recently retired, and so that is a bigger reality, and so that's what kind of led to doing this. It would be for 2 employees, it's only a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. It's not a giant bunkhouse of any stretch of the imagination, it's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. We were existing employees, and it really is to just be able to provide that 24/7 coverage for the horses that we need. It already is on site. I can kind of tell you a little bit about the history of why it's on site already. We had, because it already has an address, that site that it's on has concrete skids. It has water, sewer, a old electrical meter from that mobile home. So we were just thinking, well, we'll just put, you know, a small home there. Went to, a place down in Oklahoma who assured us that they did business in the state of Kansas and kind of licensed contractors, that they would pull the permits and whatnot. Long story short, they lied, and they told us that they pulled permits for it, and the way that we found out about it was after it was already delivered, we had hired an electrical company, Brockmeyer Electric, to upgrade the panel. And we had done consults with Evergy and whatnot, so that we knew what we needed to do there. And they went filed their permit to upgrade the panel, and then the city inspector was like, where's the permit for this?
Yeah.
And they lied to me for 2 days, telling me that they would get me the permit, and then finally had to file something and say that they never pulled it. So then we had to stop work order, we've already closed on it, and so there it sits. My understanding though, after talking to multiple planners of the day down at the MAPD though, is that were we to build a stick-built home, or if it was the RDM home, I can't remember the acronym.
Residential design manufacturing.
Which is, part of it is that it's 6 feet wider than the one that we bought. I think the length was okay on ours, but it was, the RDMs are a minimum of 22, this is a 16 by 54. Had we bought one of those, it would have been a minor adjustment, could have been approved at the MAPD without going through this whole process. Which frankly, having not closed on it, we would have probably gone through that process instead. So the bottom line is we're gonna put something there. We would really like to go this route just because it'll be a big expense if we have to call it off, but there's something gonna go there no matter what. We, you know, obviously have plans for landscape. I tried to buy one that nice and match the decor. Our plan is, even though it's great, repaint it to match everything else there and put like a rock facade around it so that it matches. I actually live at the apartment on the front of the barn that was redone, and so we have plans. This is our long-term retirement. My husband retired from the military and we're staying here, which is the great thing about Wichita. It is big enough to have so many activities, restaurants, opera, theater, you know, whatever you could possibly want, but it's small enough that everybody's so friendly that we never thought we would live in Kansas, but here we are. So, but yeah, so that's our long-term plan. There's 2 people that would be living in it. It's just a small little facility. It's really just to take better care of the horses so that I can leave, not panic when I do.
Councilmember Tuttle, Tracy Adams has a question. Is there anyone from the neighborhood here?
You're a documentary, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I don't have the password.
That's okay. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. You do great work. I love it.
And there was one couple that came to the meeting last week, because they thought that so the parcel, it's parcel 3 of the overall PUD 12, which is a pretty big parcel, it's like 23.5 acres, I think. They thought it was going to allow multiple common property, but the request is for one single, I don't want that stuff on my property either, I just want it to be able to use my, run the business better, and as soon as they heard it was only for one, they were like, no objections.
That was also my question. Were you planning?
A bit more? That was my question too.
Yeah, no.
Is this a picture of the actual?
That's a picture of the because it was delivered, we closed on it, and then we found out that they lied, and then it also turns out that they have actually, we were the first home that they sold in the state of Kansas, so not only did they lie about getting the permits, they completely misrepresented and, going back, I'm not sure what we could have done other than, can we have a copy of the permit before you haul this thing up here, which, I don't know, when people say they did something, I tend to believe them. So, yeah, but it'll have the skirting on that. We've already planted trees around it. We're obviously gonna do some flower beds and whatnot. Once we can continue the work on it, we just had to stop work order on it. So I'm set there once we found that out. So.
Any other questions from the district advisory board?
I commend you for coming here and doing the right thing. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Looks like the discussion wrapped up.
Well, then I move to approve, subject to the conditions that staff recommended.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
I'll second that.
Tim seconds. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Another Tyler, Jim, Tracy.
Jim, I think that was.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much for being here. Regina, thank you for all you do. Appreciate it. Last on the agenda, do we have any announcements, anything for the good of the order?
I have a question, yeah, well, I guess my question is saying that the three lights are out of 23rd, 21, 27, and 1, you know, like over half the way, 3/4 of the way down.
I can answer that because the streetlights are also out between Edgemore and Governor on the frontage road. When I told Evergy, they said they're about 6 months behind on getting those repaired. So I would assume that
They were
would be
looking to literally around.
ours have been off for like 5 months. So,
Okay, awesome.
but definitely call Evergy and make a report.
Okay, good.
All right, next meeting back on Monday, December 9th, will be right here at 5:00. And Teresa, thank you for all you do. You are such a valuable asset. Yeah. So thank you for your continued.
I'll note that in minutes.
Yes.
She'll be here in a minute. We're gonna message about being sworn in.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I thought she was going to meet this.
Somehow they didn't have record of it.
That's right, and I have a photo of me down at City.
I did it, I swear.
We'll figure it out. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Aaron.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, thank you. Good, guys. Great question.